All right. Hi, everyone. I'm so glad to be here. My name is Pooja, and I am a recovering adult child. I'll start with my name. It's a very common one where I come from, and I've had a very common life. There is nothing that has happened in my life that is rare, and for a very long time, I thought common and normal were synonyms. Not intellectually. Intellectually, I knew the difference. I knew the difference between um, many similar sounding ideas. Intellectually, that's it. Uh, I'll start by I'll start with my recovery journey, the initial steps, because my story is quite long. And on that note, I think I welcome you to feel free to fall asleep to the sound of my voice if that's what strikes you. It's perfectly normal to feel sleepy during the share. And mine can be really long. So yeah. Um it was basically the summer of 2020. Um for those of us who have made it past 2021, who are here speaking and listening and living in 2024, we are very fortunate. Um, but that has come with some fine experiences through pandemic. For me, that consisted of a complete mayhem internally, a never-ending noise that went on for days, then weeks, then months. It felt like the storm would never end. Interestingly, I needed complete quiet around me to become aware of the noise within. Um, it could be anything from what I'm going to eat in the day to whether or not I did my work in a good manner to whether or not I was able to clean my house in the morning or that week sometimes or the last week or yeah, a lot of the things that are part of basic self-care. Um, the fact that I'm not good at it, not perfect in my own eyes, just the little things would nag at me, They would gnaw and they would just make me feel worthless. Eventually, that led to some bigger realizations like all the past experiences I've had in life, have I been good enough in them? All of a sudden, one after the other, things were coming up, and I would just start doubting myself. And in this experience, I was, over the course of few months, many months, I was completely alone, physically, completely alone in a city I was not born in a city I didn't have family in, and I couldn't move out or come, or nobody could come in to me. Interestingly, not just for um, yeah the constraints we were living with during the pandemic, but if I think about it, it has always been hard for me to ask for help. So just the fact that I need help, and the fact that I need to say it in order to get some help, the idea was just unimaginable. Okay, then that's where I reached out to a few well wishers. And I was like, I didn't even care how much I talked with them. Sometimes I would talk for hours on the phone, on messages, sometimes when they were not available. I couldn't help it. Eventually, it got to a point where I was doubting the past experiences so much. And at that time, I had no realization that that's what I was doing. But everything felt like, like it was crashing down upon me, and I sought help. I decided to, when I was told a lot of times that I need help. Uh, Eventually, with the kind of offers universe put in my space, where it was very very easy to reach out to ask for some support, I did reach out to a professional. And the actual incident for which I sought help and consultation aside, there was something about what was told to me. Do you want to do this in a way that makes your anger manageable, or do you want to go deeper? A part of me probably was aware. I had overall this awareness that I needed something, um, like something needed to be done um, in a very in a manner that was so deep it reached to basically the core of me. Because I felt that the core of me was in trouble, and not just in trouble, but defected. And I didn't pause for a second. I said, I need the whole package. I need the whole of it. I want to do this from scratch. Whatever you wanna, how many ever pages you want to go back in the story of my life. I'm willing to do this. Um, that was the point where I scratched the surface and realized that my issues with anger, with frustration, with anxiety, with tension, with overthinking, with obsession about um, anybody I was attracted to, all of that had deeper roots. The roots were deeper than me as a being. The roots were um, also in the way I was raised. Uh, I'm going to take a moment's pause because I can literally feel myself shivering. And I realized that that's my body's response to vulnerability. Whenever I'm being very, very vulnerable and in touch with my weaknesses, I shiver. I feel cold even in the middle of summer. Okay, inviting my higher power in. Yeah. So that's when I realized that there is some trouble not just within me, but around me. So it's not all me. I am not a problem creator. Um, Now, why would I think that in the first place? That was an interesting point. But I had no clue that that wasn't the normal thing to do, to think that I'm a defected piece. Yeah, God made some mistakes while, God was creating these little creatures. And I was one of those defected pieces. Um, yeah. Then came the point where I moved on from anger to obsession and codependence and limerence. No, love addiction. And then um, I hit a pause. My journey hit a pause. My growth hit a pause after that. I thought this was it. I first learned that year about 12-step programs. It didn't click for me. I was trying to work on my codependence. I realized probably it wasn't the right time for me. It wasn't happening in the right way. And I'm quite glad for it. I'm quite glad that it didn't work at that time. In the situation I was in, I would not have been able to do the work that I've been able to do since then because I was in different circumstances. And that, despite however dysfunctional they were, gave me a means to work it. Um, yeah. But one thing happened during that time. Because of the suggestions that were made by some of my well wishers around me and the professional I sought help from, um, I started connecting with parts of me that I had long lost touch with, parts that I never even knew existed. They probably never even did. They came to the forefront. I have never ever been a poet. I've never been a poet, at least I think. And I started writing like anything. I started writing stories. I started writing not short poems, but like ballads. And when I would share them with people, they were like, this is too long for us to read. And some of them were like, wow, because they did read it. And I realized I have a whole spectrum of people around me. Um, Choosing to engage with the positive responses, I decided to find some solace in the encouragement and keep doing what was making me feel lighter. And that was one sensation I was sure about, that um, how heavy do I feel in a moment? That's it. I had no sense of happiness. I had no sense of sadness. I couldn't say that, I'm feeling happy, I'm feeling sad. What I could say was, I'm feeling over the moon. I mean, it was just up there, or it was just rock bottom. There was no in between. It's like all or nothing. Um, there were certain fights that happened during those times between my parents and me. My dad has been a very volatile person, and I have inherited or probably adapted and absorbed that kind of nature. And two volatile people are not a good combination, especially when they are a parent child. Um, anyway, moving forward a few more months, I left the job that had put me in a different city. I was starting to come to a realization that something wasn't working for me in life, that the work I was doing wasn't meaningful enough to me, that there was more to me than what I was doing, than what I was living with. And it was completely different from my present situation. This this role, this costume play, whatever it is, this does not resonate with who I am, I decided one day. And I packed my bags and decided that now that I have some semblance of a stable, this is something I would call situationship. This is the one situationship I've had in life, despite being a millennial. Um, Whatever situationship I have with my parents, let me use that. Let me put that to some benefit. Let me use that as a support and go back home, go back to my hometown and stay for some time and see what is clicking for me and what is not. Eventually, the The pull was so much that I didn't want to leave anymore. I came back to my hometown. I stayed for a few weeks. And when I was specifically demanded by my manager to return to the site once and for all, I decided to put in my papers. This isn't it. This simply isn't it. And this wasn't a clean decision. This wasn't a clean decision. There was weeks of what am I going to tell my parents? What am I going to tell my friends? What am I going to tell my relatives? My aunt, my uncle, my sister, my brother in law, my childhood friend, my colleagues. The last course I was enrolled in, what would my classmates say? They all follow me on LinkedIn, on various social media pages. They are all going to know about it. Am I doing the right thing? They'll be in that position. I'm making this decision. My mind would race at like, I don't know, 1,000 miles per hour. Um, if that's fast enough, I don't know. Um, but I had no choice except to accept the clarity that this isn't me and I got to leave and this is it. I don't know what will happen. I have no idea. I have no clue. I have no fucking clue. I wanted to say that word out loud on record. Um, and I just did it. I just did it. I wrote a mail. I think I read it a few times over because if I wouldn't, it's not me. And I hit send. I did not inform my roommate. I did not inform anybody. I just informed my manager, I'm going to do this. And then I hit the mail. That's it. And then I told everybody else. Because to be very honest, I was not ready to take up all that baggage on me just yet. For once in my life, I wanted to do something with a very clear mind. And I did it because it mattered the most to me. I'm somebody, at least I was somebody who couldn't decide which pair of earring to wear, which dress to wear the next day. Should I show up as a boss woman? Or should I show up as an innocent child? Or should I show up as a helpless child, woman, teenager, human? Or should I show up as a no nonsense gangster? I had no idea about any of those things. I had no idea what to make for breakfast, whether or not to have a breakfast, whether to order the food from outside, whether to brush my teeth first, or to go to the bathroom first. Which task do I want to do first? But I knew in that moment that I didn't want to be in this place anymore. And I just hit that mail and I quit and I decided that this is it for me. And I was asked by everybody around me to think over it, to take it back. And I did not. I just did not. Fast forward a few months, I asked for help again. This time, I had no resources. I had no organizational resources that offered help to employees who were very hardworking. I did my own research. I found somebody, and it burned a hole in my pocket. But I did what they asked me, and yeah. Fast forward a month, I realized I have a lot of issues. I felt guilty about chasing a guy, not for chasing him, but for chasing him when I was such a low value human myself. I did not deserve love. My self esteem was at an all time low. Um, yeah, well, not all time. My inner teen is whispering to me. She's seen worse. Anyway, after about 6 to 8 months, somebody showed me the doors of a 12-step program. It felt like home. And then I asked around and I learned that apparently 12-step meeting rooms exist out there for everything that could possibly be wrong about somebody's life. If you've got a problem, there's a program for that. If you need help with anything, there's a program for that. That was a very, very happy news to me. Because for once, there was nobody telling me what to do. There was nobody who was expert. There was just people who were like me or who didn't even need to be like me in any way that I knew. They didn't need to be in the same gender. Didn't need to be in the same caste or creed or religion or culture or country or, I don't know, sexuality, anything. They just had to have the same issue with themselves as me. And first of all, they had to have an issue with themselves because asking for help means accepting I have an issue. I got a problem. Fast forward 2 months. I had no idea what was going on. I was completely dissociating day in and day out. I was unemployed. I had no work. I was basically just sitting and I just couldn't sit. It was so painful. And therefore, I would go completely numb just sitting because it was too painful to sit with myself. I had a problem with everything that was going around me. I stayed with my parents. They didn't like my decision. They had no idea what I was trying to do with my life. They were asking me to get married, and I wouldn't do it. Where I come from, being at this age unmarried, yeah, there's a lot of push from the home. Not to get out and make a life for yourself, mind you, but to get married. Um, yeah. And that is when that's the time when I had found ACA. Talking about the initial days, I could sit in the meetings, I could listen to the readings, I could even read, I could share. I was actually dying to share. And then I realized that there is something called sharing, and I've never been good at that. I've never ever been good at that. I am the youngest in my small family. I have elder sibling, and there's a lot of issues between me and her, and me and my parents, and basically all four of us: me, my sister, my mother, and my father. And I used to think, which family doesn't? So my initial around 4 months in ACA were about realizing that despite not being perfect, um, despite the like, despite fault being a natural state of existence in relationships, in families, there has been stuff that has made me that has given me some problems in life. And that was followed by a year and a half more of recovery, add a few more months, and here I am now. So, what has happened for me? I would call it some sort of unraveling. It all started with um, the possibility of a higher power. It all started with me opening up to the idea of faith. It took me around a year to really come to the understanding that um, nobody has been taking care of me. No individual has been taking care of me. I couldn't, okay. So I am somebody who has been enmeshed with her mother, extremely enmeshed with her. I was a complete savior of her, and she was a complete savior of me. So it was utterly, utterly heartbreaking for me to realize that the power that was taking care of me was never her. She was a sinking ship, just as I was. We always were. There was no savior, there was no sufferer. No, we were both sinking ships, just feeding each other's illusions. It completely devastated me. Happy to report that that was a realization I had while sitting in the discomfort of a very uncomfortable chair I have at home while I was face to face virtually with a trustworthy therapist. Because as helpful as 12 steps were for me, I needed the flow, the consistency, and just the magic of a very long conversation, which is very focused, where I couldn't and wouldn't be able to distract myself because somebody will make sure that I am not losing my focus and I'm not putting blinders. I'm not putting any spectacles on my eyes and I'm seeing the reality for what it is, crosstalk or not. I needed that. I needed that heartbreak. I still remember the session that was like a complete breakthrough after a month or two. I don't even remember. It ended with my therapist. I felt like there were some tears in her eyes. I could see them through my own. And she asked me after the session, "What are you going to do?" And I sat there and I was very honest. I said, "I'm going to cry a bit, actually, a lot, and then be by myself and just be, and then probably do something that makes me feel good, whatever. Maybe not distracting myself, but maybe go out in nature or something to just ground myself." Or something to that effect, I must have said. And that was how that session had closed. And then it still took me around 2 to 3 months to realize that despite that realization, the behavior of the enmeshment was really in my behavior, was in my relationship. And it is going to be very, very hard for me to just snap out of this enmeshment with my mother while I stay in the same house unless I completely surrender, systematically surrender, even my enmeshment and codependence over to my higher power. There are some prayers I've developed in the process. Dear God, I can't. I have no idea what to do with this relationship. I have no idea what to do with this situation. You take care of it. Please take it away from me. Please take care of it. Be the relationship with my mother or my sister or the relationship with my work the little pleasures of life. I've had to say these prayers for all of them because, as I was once told by a fellow traveler, it's not the things that are bad. I identify as a love addict. I identify as yeah, so many things, but it's essentially my relationship with all of them that matters. Be it food, be it internet, be it pleasure, be it watching Netflix, be it connecting with friends. If if Pooja started something, she just couldn't let go. I just could not stop talking to somebody once a conversation started. I just couldn't stop laughing once I started because it was so rare for me to get those things. I was craving for normal things. And it's taken me this long to finally come to the realization that these are not bad things. It is not bad to want to connect, to want to talk to somebody. And I realize I'm a hardcore fear and shame based person. So bit by bit, hour by hour, sometimes minute by minute, I decided to be mindful. Whenever I realized would be the moment where I realized I'm not mindful. Let's be mindful. Where am I? Looking around me, right here. And sometimes closing my eyes and saying these thoughts. Let me put them to the side for a second. Let me hold them in front of me. These feelings that I'm feeling, let me hold them in front of me. Anything else? What's left? Anything else that is left? I would hold it right there in front of me, in the eyes of my mind. When there was absolutely nothing left, I would say this right here. This is me. Anything that I can hold at arm's length would be held at arm's length. And what's left, like a blank canvas, that's me. And that is the space from where I've been operating. And that is what brings me some semblance of peace. In this journey, I've also experimented with IFS, and I've had some brilliant breakthroughs. Um, I think it's been about 15 years that um, I've had severe headaches, um, that I've had anxiety that messes up with my digestion, and I feel it in the pit of my stomach. I feel the weight in my chest, on my shoulders. It was one session of IFS, just a trial, and I came face to face with a part. And I say part as a technical term, with a part of me that was giving me headaches. Whenever I would try to into my, reach out to the most vulnerable parts of me, whenever I would try to dig deep, and it could be with a therapist. I've had severe headaches, migraines after therapy sessions, especially the first person I contacted. Like, the person didn't know the word slow or steady. It was like talking to this person was like, yeah, just shooting the arrow right on the mark. There was like, as far as peeling the onion go, there was no peeling happening. There was just cutting the onion right into the core, and it was very devastating. I highly recommend. I mean, take what you like and leave the rest, but this is my recommendation. If it feels heavy, it is okay to say, This is too fast. Go slow. I need you to go slow. I do not know it. I wish I did. Anyway, it was hard seeing that it was a part of me that was giving me trouble. It was hard to see that I must have gotten through something that was so painful that I had this offshoot that was my internalized mother that was literally doing some kind of magical motion through her hands as if she was trying to control the anchor of my ship or something, and literally creating the pain through some kind of magic, through some kind of hand motion. And I was feeling it. I could visualize it. I could see it through the eyes of my mind so clearly. But it was great to be guided by a professional so I could tell her rather than lashing out to her. Hey, do you mind it just, turning that down just a little notch so I may be able to reach these other parts? I love you. Mwah. It was very hard to have that kind of approach and not want to go like, what the hell are you doing? Why are you trying to kill me? Yeah, turns out that part was really looking out for me. Similarly, I have a part that stops me, that actually takes care of this another offshoot I developed when I was a teenager. This offshoot did not want to exist. Trigger alert. Um, she wanted to not exist anymore. She had gotten the message. I had gotten the message when I was around 13 years of age that I was unwanted, that I was in the way that I was in my core. Who I am is unwanted. And I had internalized it. And whenever I would try to reach that part of me, or whenever there was any kind of rejection around, another part of me would take over as a very protective friend and not allow me to connect with this very vulnerable part. I'm yet to get a conversation out of her or even two words. But so far, I've been able to befriend this protector of her. It's like I got to win the trust of this protector, this gatekeeper, and only then will I be allowed to connect with with her friend, with her soulmate, with her twin sister. And mind you, they're all twins. They all have the same face as me. But one step at a time. She's gone through a lot. I've never I was about to say actually I've never had financial troubles. And then I realized when I was a young adult, I was often made to feel guilty for some very basic stuff in life. I was often scolded for it. And at the same time, when I was offered and I would speak my mind out, I was simultaneously praised by my dad. So there were a lot of mixed signals growing up. Is it okay to ask for things? Is it not okay to ask for things? Am I too demanding? Is it okay to go for the best toy on the shelf, or will I be made to feel guilty that I'm a spoiled, uncouth child asking for things? In my mind, in my young mind, as a kid, I came very, very last. There's actually some kind of hierarchy that I came across. I think it's in one of the scriptures. I might have interpreted them wrong in some way, or it could be some kind of social order that an individual should think of himself or herself at the very last. An individual always owes their life to their parents, to their country, to their leaders. Always. They owe it to their teachers, no matter what happens. It's only in recovery that I'm realizing that it's not okay for a teacher to slap a kid nonstop in front of other kids for 5 minutes. It's not okay for a music teacher to pick up drumsticks and call offenders one by one who are students of fifth or sixth grade and hit them, really just hit them. And I realized that although none of those things have happened to me personally, they've all made me fear based. I must not commit a mistake. And I could never commit a mistake. How could I ever commit a mistake when the consequences were so bad? And at the same time, I had no control over making mistakes. When I was in sixth grade, I just completely lost my focus from studies. I went into dissociation for about 3 years. Numbness, complete state of numbness, and after that, there was just intoxication. There was no genuine part of me left, and that was all throughout adolescence. And there was just one thing that happened at that time. My dad, um, who was outside of the country, and who was trying to make a good life for himself and fulfill his dreams, to be something, to live his life, to explore. He came back home. So for 5, 6, 7 years, when he was not there, that was the prime of my childhood, or I would say infancy. And right when I was about to hit adolescence, he came back. And I realized in recovery that it's been hardest for me, so very hard to accept my inner teen. Because even as I tried to be her loving parent, I was met with questions that parents would in general meet when trying to raise a teenager. I had no idea what to do about her desires, her wants, her needs. Should I allow her to date when she's clearly not fit for it? I would constantly go for men who were unavailable, and not just unavailable, unfortunately, but downright abusive. And then I would be abused by my friends for falling for the wrong people because they lost respect for me. And respect only came from being something, being smart, being better than the rest. So respect and love always had to be earned, as far as I was concerned. It's only in recovery that I'm realizing I've had those other people who saw me, maybe unconsciously, and accepted me, even through the mistakes. The shame was really all inside for many cases, for many of my friends who were not trying to belittle me. So essentially, my journey has been from anger to love, addiction to codependence, limerence, original core wound, childhood wounds. The next step was emotional sobriety. That was the next goal for me. The next goal was faith. The next goal was, well, not really goal, more like steps. The next step was mindfulness. And the next step is more like an umbrella for all of them, which is complete and utter self acceptance. As of now, I'm hmm, trying to connect and build a relationship with all of my parts. I already have a relationship with my higher power. I started conversing with my higher power through minutes and hours. Times it felt like some kind of intoxication initially. What helped me move forward was refusal to feel guilt about it. Why should I feel guilty about something I've never done? Why should I feel guilty for not knowing things I was never taught and things people around me, my parents, even dismiss, or they say that it does not exist, that it's all BS, complete nonsense. And I'm able to say all this because I was starting to talk to my inner critic and challenge a few of the things my inner critic would tell me. Are you sure? Are you sure I'm the worst person? I'm not killing somebody. I'm not abusing them. Are you sure? What makes you say that? It was really, really helpful. It is still really very helpful to be able to challenge my inner critic in a loving way because it's true, as in, so out. Every time that I've started this process of talking lovingly, respectfully to my inner critic, I have been able to hold space for the critics around me and hold them at arm's length at the same time. Sometimes that meant taking a step back. Sometimes it meant when they were sufficient steps away, putting a hand up so they know that they must not cross the line, or that at least I'm putting a boundary. Throughout this journey, what has helped me was basically fellowship. I found higher power for me started with asking for help from, you know, one, even if there was one glimmer of hope, one ray of light, it was okay to reach out for it. It was okay. I still say that I have a long way to go because I want a life that feels true. I'm not trying to reach some place, or I would say some kind of level. I'm trying to just establish deeper levels of connection with the universe inside me and around me so I can truly experience life in all ways that are possible and more. I feel like, yes, this is one life and I really want to live it. I'm doing gratitude journaling since the beginning of this year. I decided not to make it my New Year resolution. I never called it that. That would have been jinx. So it's just something I started, and I'll keep calling it that till the end of the year. I hope so. And it's helping me open my eyes to so many things around me. Because if there's one thing I learned, it's that there's a reason that the inventory always has to be blameless for anybody, including myself. because it's only with what I have in front of me, things I'm aware of or unaware of, that lead to something else. It's like a stepping stone. In some ways, I'm leaving the baggage my parents have gotten from their parents, have gotten from their parents, and so on and so forth. But I'm also realizing that they have done some of it as well. They have left some of the baggage behind as well. It would be wrong, it would be simply incorrect if I blamed everything on them. It would not help me in my recovery because it is not something sober for me to do, not accepting the truth. So I got to give some credit there. But at the same time, I'm realizing I can use other resources that do work for me, and I can um, make something out of it. And I realize the best outcome happens when I'm not trying and I'm just being, because that is what helps me stay open to literally everything around me. That's where ideas come to me. That's where my inner child whispers to me. And that's something I started my relationship with, uh, my inner child with. I remember telling her when she was very, very timid about it. She couldn't stand up for herself. So I told her, you don't need to, not with me. You just come close to me and just whisper in my ears, wherever you see me, in public, in private, wherever, just come and whisper into my ears. Maybe I won't hear it instantly and be able to respond. Maybe I won't be able to act on it instantly, but I promise you, I'm listening. Similarly, for my inner teen, it hasn't helped to criticize her at all, even if she was being one angry goddess. It was so helpful for me to just admire her in all her glory and be able to see her the way sometimes my closest friends could. The way my closest friend would just fall at the side of me, like, you said that? You stood up to that person? Because they'd always seen that timid side of me. And I couldn't believe that. But seeing her in all her glory really helps me appreciate all parts of me. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that interestingly, it's not come from ACA, but from the universe, I guess. The most successful person, I mean, I'm quoting here, the most successful people are often that embrace all parts of themselves, leaving nothing out. All the sassiness, all the anger, all the creativity, all the fun parts, all the serious parts, all the focus parts, all the silly parts. And I'm realizing that that's what makes life colorful. That's what makes people colorful. The kind of colors I like to associate with people, the different shades, the different tones, not the skin, but the personalities, but the spirits. And I'm realizing that this is not coming from just the adult me. This is the childhood part of me. This is the inner child in me who is completely untouched, who is truly my connection to her power. And so I applaud her and I connect with her in all possible ways. And I love to see her angry because that means she's standing up for herself. I love to hold space for her. I love to hold space for my inner teen. I hear you. That other person. Oh yes, let's go for it. Tell me in complete detail what you want to do to him or her. Just tell me. I gotta hear you. Tell me. Yes, that was bad what they did. I love to validate all those things. Same for my young adult. She's still quite timid. She has been through a lot. She has been abused by some man who really, who she really, really loved from the core of her heart, she's been really abused by him, completely discarded, publicly, privately, completely gaslighted. I'm wondering if probably my inner teen can help her. The anger. Anyway, so I've come a long way, and I'm even learning to stand up to some people who I never thought I would have to stand up for. People I've literally stood up for, but I'm realizing it's less and less about what's good, what's bad, what's wrong, what's right, but it's more about what works and what doesn't. There's an undeniable truth for situations, for compatibility. This matters to me because essentially relationships, I understand, are very hard for adult children. So all my revelations are about relationships with others and with myself, selves, and capital S self. But I'm super, super excited and I'm here to stay. And I think I've really rambled on. So thank you, thank you, thank you for lending me your ears. I am so glad for this space. I love you all. Please take care.